Hi, welcome to my channel. Welcome to this layout. My name is Cynthia. I am going to take the opportunity that I have to have the heater off for about an hour or so while I do this reading. It's usually not an hour that I go for, but you never know. Sometimes they turn out to be close to an hour long. I didn't set a big intention for this layout, mainly just a general reading, what's going to be most helpful for the collective to know. And then I'm going to share a little bit, though, first before I get into it. I've had dreams that are recurring in theme now for like the last 2 weeks. And I touched on the theme briefly in another layout, but it's like coming through like louder and louder and louder. So while it might have some meaning for me, I think it has meaning for multiple people in the collective. And that's that you're going through a sorting out process in terms of your relationships. And that's not an easy thing to do, I know. Especially if you're loyal, it can really be challenging to come to terms with the fact that maybe a relationship has run its course or is coming to an end or maybe is not healthy anymore. And in my circumstance, the dreams I keep having over and over are long-term friendships and feeling like I can't trust friends. And that's not something that I typically feel about my friends, which is why I think that it's coming through for the collective layouts that I'm doing and that it's a dream process that I'm having that's meant to be shared here. It tends to be friendships that go way back, like into grade school, middle school, and high school length or time frame that we're talking about here. And the theme consistently has been you realizing or being approached by a group of people who've been discussing you. And they're people that you didn't even really realize knew each other. The common thread is you. You're the common denominator among these people. But they're now approaching you as if to either express concern about you or I don't even know. Like there's also been that's been one of the themes. The other themes have been these friends are now doing things that don't include you, like either going on trips or having experiences together. And you're now the newcomer to all this information in the dream. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, I didn't realize you guys knew each other. Or how do you know each other? I thought the only way you would know each other is through me. And that can happen in a lot of different ways, right? Like if you live in a smaller city or town, if you have a lot of friends on social media. I personally have friends that I only know through social media. I've never met them in person. So sometimes things like that can come into play. But it's been happening enough in my dreams that it's kind of upsetting. Like I've been waking up upset. Like, what am I supposed to feel about this dream? They're people that I know. They're not made up dream people like you can have sometimes. They're people that I know in my life and that I go way back with. But now all of a sudden I'm seeing or discerning like, oh, when did you all become friends? Oh, you went on this trip together? Like how, that's interesting. Or, kind of just trying to make sense of that or file it away, or even the feeling or energy is you're getting caught up and sort of wondering like how or why did I not know this, or maybe it was unintentional, or was it like did they mean to keep this from me, or is it and why should I feel threatened by that? Like people are allowed to have friends that aren't, do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of sorting out like that in the dream, and it's just been a recurrent theme like almost literally every night in my dream space. So finally I'm like, okay, might as well just talk about it in a reading, because maybe this is what people are going through in this collective that catch my readings. So it's a confirmation for you is what I think, that some of that is going on, and it can be sort of disturbing to feel like all of these friends are now gathering or together or have this friendship that the common thread was at one time you, but somehow you've been excluded or left out of that. And now you're kind of trying to figure out how or why is this happening, right? It's weird. It's a weird experience. And in the dream space, when I'm having the dream, I'm trying to figure out like, well, don't lose your, don't get upset necessarily. People have the freedom to befriend whoever they want, and you're not entitled to receive explanations and play-by-plays about your friends' lives and who they're making friends with. But there's this element of like, why have I been excluded from the information? Like, it doesn't mean that I feel entitled to be kept abreast of everything going on in their lives, but it seems like they would have at least mentioned it. Like, oh yeah, I'm now friends with this person that you go back with in high school, and we both know that we're friends with you, but neither of us have felt like mentioning it, and it's got you wondering, like, why? What's going on, right? Like, there's something that isn't adding up about it. I guess I'll just say that. In the dream, that's what the effect that it keeps having on me over and over is like, something doesn't add up about this. Why didn't someone just mention it to me, right? Or why did you all get to have this wonderful event and I'm the common thread, but yet somehow I'm on the outside, right? There's something like that going on. And then last night, the dream morphed into, again, a friend who suddenly showed up in my world, and it's a friend I don't even really speak to. I haven't even seen this person since middle school, and we don't really have anything in common anymore, but suddenly they're involved in my life or the space that I frequent, but they don't want to acknowledge me. Like, I'll be in there like, oh, hi, oh my gosh, yeah, I went to high school with that person, and like whoever I'm sitting there with, who I'm arrived in the space with, and I'm introducing the fact that I know this other person who's there, but the other person is completely uncomfortable and not acknowledging our history at all. So there's something weird about that. It might be that you've caught wind of that and you're like, well, that's weird. I'm slightly uncomfortable that you're now such tight friends with somebody that I don't even speak to anymore for good reason, right? Or something like that. It's been a couple times just for my own life, people that I, with reason, don't really have a relationship with anymore. But now it's kind of come back around and they're friends with people I know right now in the present day. It's really strange. And maybe it's my own psyche sorting through some relationships that go way back, I don't know. I'm not preoccupied enough in my waking life to be having this show up in my dream space every single night. So I think that it's because I'm supposed to be sharing it, that you're seeking confirmation that there is something that is being withheld from you, whether it's intentionally or not. It's upsetting you, and this is a validation that that's okay. I get it. Like, I get it because I know how I felt in the dreams. I was like, well, are they intentionally not telling me about that they've become friends? Or, are they hiding that from me? Like, or have they been discussing me? Because that's the other thing. Like, I just personally, for what it's worth, in my past, I liked gossip. I thought it was fun and kind of funny. And I understood that it's not the greatest human behavior to gossip about others, but a lot of people do it in the work setting, in school settings, whatever. Vent to each other about somebody in the shared setting that you two don't really vibe with them or whatever. But as I've gone through my spiritual ascension more and more, like, I feel less and less comfortable with gossiping. And I feel really uncomfortable when someone's coming to me to gossip or discuss somebody that we share as a friend or a colleague or whatever. I don't really like that anymore, and I don't vibe with it, and it feels kind of toxic to me anymore, and I just don't like it. So I think that that's also playing out, is that you're sensing that these people have been discussing you without your knowledge, and you may have this kind of third eye vision or psychic intuition about these relationships. That can be challenging to know what to do about it. Like, I've had experiences like that where I'm then like, well, what do I do? I mean, I can't live my life moving around what I pick up in someone's impression about how they feel about me. I need to just go about my own life. But it's a lot. It can feel like a burden sometimes to know that kind of information. Like, I can sense and feel that this person's mad at me or threatened by me or jealous, even though they won't bring it to me. You can still sense it, like an undercurrent. That's uncomfortable. So it's those kinds of dynamics that you might be sorting through. The other dream last night that I had was that my person showed up to, like, let's hang out, like maybe to kind of take me out. And at first I'm happy, right? In the dream, I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm into it, right? Like, let's go. I know this great place. But then all of a sudden their friends are involved, and their friends are like, no, we want to go over here and do this first. Like, suddenly becomes a group event when I wasn't really interested in that. But I'm kind of like, well, I want to hang out with my person, so I guess I'll try to adapt or figure that out. But then the more deeply I go into like trying to accommodate that this friend is now calling the shots about the plans that we're making for the evening and where we're going to go and what we're going to do. It's like, no, we're going to go over here and get beer first. I need to do that first. And it's like, okay, like it's this constant theme of like, why am I having to accommodate this? And so that's what happened in the dream last night, is that I realized at some point, because it kept taking me further and further away of not only how I wanted to spend time with my person, but even just doing my own goals. Like I was fine doing my own thing, working on my creative projects, doing my things that are just self-focused. Then my person shows up, so I'm like, oh great, like I'm excited about that. So I'll make some adjustments here so I can spend time with you. But then they switch it up on you and it's like, oh, now our friends are coming too, and they want to do this, that, and the other thing first. Like I personally, in my waking life and in the dream space, I don't like that. It's like, well, then you guys go ahead. I don't want to do that last minute running around, doing all this stuff that feels really inconvenient, and I'm not even that interested in. I don't really feel like going and getting beer. I'd rather just hang out with my person like I thought was going to happen. Now I'm on your time doing your tasks, and because it's not only that, it's like I am the one that knows the city that we're in. So I'm having to like explain to the friend who's now calling the shots, like, well, here's where you need to go for beer, and here's what you know, and finally I'm just like, I don't want to, in the dream I was like, no, you guys go ahead. I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. It's taking me further and further away. It's feeling less and less organized. It's feeling more and more frustrating to me, and I had no plans to even spend my time like this, period, to begin with. And now, not only am I trying to accommodate this other party that's involved, but I'm trying to accommodate their agenda and getting around the town and city when I don't really want to even be out doing that. I'd rather just be somewhere quiet with my person having a drink, right? Or something like that. So I think the dream is coming through as confirmation that you don't need to accommodate so much. That's something that I work through of like, I'll accommodate some adjustments, but at this point, you know, it's like, I want to do what I want to do with my time. I don't owe people my time. I owe people adjustment and conciliation and like, yeah, let's compromise here on these varying agendas. But at some point it's like, well, no, you guys go ahead then. I don't want to go anymore. So there's a confirmation to that dream for you about you're not obligated to make concessions that you don't feel up to, especially when your time feels important to you to get things done. I'm personally in a place like that in my life. I want to spend my time how I want to spend it. I don't want to feel like I'm having to live up to everybody else's expectations of what I should or shouldn't be doing, whether I should or shouldn't be doing these certain things that makes them happy, especially if it has nothing to do with me and my own growth. And maybe that sounds selfish, but it's brought me a lot of peace. Like I want to be with the people I want to be with. I want to see the people I want to see. I'll make that effort. The other issue is money. Like I keep having to tell people over and over, like I really don't have the money right now and I'm sorry. I don't want to not be invited, but also I also wish that people would remember that I don't have a lot of money to be throwing around, spending out on things like that, beer, driving, gas, you know, everything costs money. Everything's really expensive right now, right? And I'm on a really fixed budget. So those are the kind of themes that I just want to bring out. Feeling like put upon by relationships that maybe have run their course, feeling a little bit suspicious about people resurfacing in your life that you're like, what are you doing here? Like, we don't really have any reason to be in contact anymore. So now why are you talking to my family, right? Or why are you... And it's that kind of energy where you walk into the room and things kind of get quiet and there's a lot of looks exchanged about like, oh, yeah, we're friends now. You know what I mean? There's something to that. And I remember that happening when I left my last job. That feeling of just like toxic work culture where I'd walk into the room and you could just feel that someone had just been discussing you. And I know that can sound paranoid, but if you're intuitive, you pick up on that stuff all the time. And people love to gossip in the workplace. That's not crazy talk. That's real, right? So it's uncomfortable. The more intuitive you get about stuff like that, the more uncomfortable it is about like, well, then do I really want to hang out with them? If they were just talking about me, maybe I don't want to be friends with them after all. I thought I liked them. I thought we had a good vibe, but I can tell I was just being discussed, right? So it's something like that. Like if someone's discussing you, it would be nice if they could just bring their concerns to you directly instead of continue to, you know, talk to your friends group or your family about it, right? So that's confirmation for you that I'm picking up on stuff like that in the dream. Clearly not just about me, but for other people. So I just want to validate you. Like, don't think that that's being overly paranoid if you're kind of concerned about, like, even if you're just going to make note of it for later. It's not like you have to try to dig and get to the bottom of it all, but it's fine to take note, right? Like, something feels a little weird about that. So I'm going to take note that I'm now picking up on something here and I'm uncomfortable with it. And it's an intuitive psychic impression about this dynamic and I'm not comfortable with it. And so I'm not going to necessarily accuse anyone of anything, but I'm going to limit my contact and my exposure with these folks if I sense that that's going on, right? So that's okay to do. I want to just validate you because I think that's why that's coming through. So I'm going to go ahead and start now just to do a general layout. I've been enjoying the Marseille deck again. The other thing too that might be relevant for folks is that your creative work and protecting it, that's been really on my mind, and I've started taking the steps that I need to protect my work. It costs money, like filing fees with trademark and copyright offices, and you know, there was a part of me this morning that was like, I'm gonna I'll pay all this money to start protecting my creative work, and then we're gonna have some kind of societal collapse where none of that's gonna matter anymore, right? But I mean, in that case, maybe even money won't be as, you know, I'm not predicting that we're having a collapse, although if we're looking around, everything's on fire right now, right? But, you know, money becomes less relevant when it's survival and, you know, during a collapse. We've all seen The Walking Dead, you know, stuff like that. Gotta have a sense of humor about it because we only have control over so much. But I will say the other theme that people in this collective might be experiencing, because I also am, is excitement about future plans. Like, I finally feel like I have a focus and a direction, and I'm really excited about it. It took a lot of patience on my part. I kept kind of just waiting and watching and taking the steps I need to take to feel secure for when I leave this space, which is coming up. I'll be moving, you know, in spring. And so I have options for where and how that's going to go down, but now that I have kind of a focus, I'm really excited. It's nice to feel that kind of zest again, like, oh, good. You know, I feel the intuitive hunches that I'm onto something here that feels good. It's not just like settling for a different choice, right? It's like an exciting, like, oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I like looking information up about that place online, and, you know, that's very exciting. So you might be feeling some of that similar excitement in spite of what's going on in the world. I live in the United States, and it's a hellscape right now of just shock and awe. That's a very classic dictatorial approach, keeping people confused and angry and outraged and scared and not knowing which way to turn and which way to go. That's like a thing that dictators do, right? So we can kind of see, if you're tuned into that, what's going on. And I'm not trying to minimize that, but on a personal level, I'm trying to find my joy where I can. And it's excitement about the coming changes finally in my life, right? That I've been wanting for like a year now, at least. So just a lot of talking. Thanks for listening. If I remember any more, I do. I'll do this at the end though. We'll get into the layout now, but I did have a really intense dream that was disturbing, but I also think is going to be confirmation for other people. If I forget, maybe I'll do like a written post. I'm going to set this over here. Maybe that'll help me remember, just as a prompt. What's important for the collective to know right now about anything that wants to come out? Wow, big changes, really big changes. The central card of this Tetractus is the Tower. But it's also, it looks like it's a good change with the Sun here and the Wheel of Fortune. even though it's intense. All right, so something's going on for sure. Yeah, the cornerstone there's a lot about the change that's sad and that's hitting you in the heart. It's the Three of Swords, and that's the cornerstone card. It's important to understand, though, that it's going to bring in, because in this angle of the Tetractys, above it is the Wheel of Fortune and then the Sun. So you're going to have a lot of choices, even though this may feel like a sorrowful change right now. It's bringing you into, you know, you might be saying goodbye to some things or having some truths revealed to you about some betrayal or some things like that I was just touching on, like these relationships or a relationship that you thought you could trust that you've now seen the light about, and you're like, oh wow, what are you doing in this part of my life? Like, what are you doing here, right? Like, there's a feeling of betrayal that's coming through where you feel like someone's violated your confidence or your trust, right? That's happening. That's why those dreams have been coming through. The truth, though, is that in spite of this sorrowful realization about things in your life and people in your life that kind of need to go, maybe in terms of like coming to an end, there's also with that a new beginning, and you're generating an abundant new beginning for yourself by being willing to let go and face those hard truths. That's the truth here. It's bringing you into High Priestess status. Like I said, I've had to learn in terms of impressions like that that's not just weird stuff in my own psyche. It's psychic impressions that I'm having. It's psychic intuition that I'm having about my own life and at times about the collective. And that's something I've been working on, right? So I'm glad to see it affirmed here. It comes with sorrow, though, when you are starting to realize, like, I'm getting a lot of impressions that I can't really trust this person, and I'm just going to kind of watch and wait and see if it bears out. I'm not going to, run my life around it or get super paranoid, but I'm trusting it at this point, right? That's what's happening for you in the collective. It's been sad, but the Three of Wands is no match for a Queen of Pentacles, Fool, and High Priestess. It's launching you into a new beginning where you're way more empowered, and perhaps in a community that regards this kind of work. That's been something for me too, that it's not necessarily even in my own life that I have friends that I can't trust, but it's that I have friends that they just don't connect to this. So it's like I do this alone. No, I don't think any of them really watch this. And it's not that it's weird though, right? Like I would like to have a community around me of people that see me for this work and are like, you're amazing. What an amazing card reader. And it's not that I don't have that. I'm not saying that, but this is what we're talking about. Like the sadness of letting go of certain relationships, but also the excitement and the joy of what's new now coming in because you've been willing to grow and evolve. Not everybody grows and evolves or changes at the same pace. It doesn't mean that anybody's bad, right? So the vulnerability is that it feels a little out of control for you. Like one day you're up, the next day you're down. One day you're like, that's been true for me. Again, like I have days where I'm really happy and excited about these changes and days where I feel scared and confused and kind of lost by the experience. Something has been revealed to you or is about to be revealed to you, and it's a shock to your entire reality, right? A tower moment is a big, shocking event, but you know on a deeper level that it's bringing you joy. These are the facts. It's a shocking joy. It's a shocking event that's going to bring a lot of joy, like maybe a windfall of money, or here with cups, it's joy in the heart, right? So it might be like hearing from a lover that you love or that you pine for and that you've hoped to hear from, and boom, here they are, right? It's something like that. This is really beautiful. 10 of Cups in the facts position, in your strength position. You know that you're working towards your happiness. The fact is you're a High Priestess, and in the seen world, in your strength position, is that you're doing all of this for your ultimate joy. You're in alignment with your growth. You're not running from it. You're not hiding from it. You're facing the truth about certain circumstances. And even though it feels like you're on a spinning wheel and you're wondering when is it going to calm out a little bit and calm down, you're very connected to the facts and your strength, which is your joy, that you're doing what makes you happy. Whether the people in your life understand that or not, they don't live your life, right? So this is a really nice thing to see. it might feel at times like it's selfish or devilish to be reveling in so much joy at a time when other people are so scared. And I relate and I understand. And your devil on your shoulder might be saying, don't go blasting this all over the place because people are going through really hard times and you want to read the room, right? You don't want to be like, woo, celebration everywhere when people are scared as fuck, right? Like you have to kind of temper some of that. That's what your devil is saying. It's not saying you don't have a right to be happy, although that could be more of an old tape maybe that plays in your mind that you still have to kind of try to heal from. But what I'm picking up that it means is that you're trying to have some discernment about not being gloating when other people are fearful or maybe haven't been on the dark night of the soul journey that you've been on. I've been on one for like fucking 5 years now. It's like, and it's not that I haven't had happiness throughout that, but it's been hard work that I've done emotionally and spiritually. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for these joyful things. But I'm going to read the room. I'm not going to go blasting everywhere all over the place how great everything is for me, right? But joy is contagious too. So it's nice to, you know, remind people of the things that they have to be joyful about. The angel on your shoulder is cautioning you about theft of your time and theft of your resources. It's saying, watch out. Not everybody's going to like this for you. People might covet what's happening to you and want to take it for themselves. Again, like I was saying about protecting my work, I started taking the steps in the 3D plane to do that, not just asking or trying to send energy of protection to my work, but I'm taking the steps. Trademarking, copywriting, things that I think are worth protecting for my creative future, right? This is that wise, discerning part that says not everybody's going to be happy for you, and that's okay. They don't have to be, but you're allowed to then separate or do what you need to protect yourself from that kind of envy, because you're coming into a time where you have a lot of options. So let's see about the options here. It's a 7 of Cups, so not all of the options are going to be great, but anything in life is a lesson. So what about the 7 of Cups here? What about this 7 of Cups? You're going to have some choices in love. The Lover's card, the Queen of Swords, and the Knight of Swords. So a lot of information is going to be coming in about options that you have in love. And you're going to have to be very discerning because they're not all going to be for the greatest good for you, right? Or for the other person possibly. But it's involving the realm of the heart with this Lover's card. It's going to be a shock. Like someone might come in and make a love confession to you. Or you might have multiple people do that at once. And then you have to kind of sort through like, whoa, that's a shock, right? Unexpected. What am I going to do here? Know that you don't want to be gluttonous at a time like that. You want to be discerning. You want to have boundaries. You know, you want to make sure that you're using the air element and not just getting lost in the emotion, but also using the wisdom of the air element within you to make the choice. It's a choice in love. It's going to make you really happy is what I'm sensing. As shocking as it is, it's going to be very joyful. And I think it's going to signal to you that you might have a time of joy and plenty for a while where you're not going to feel so up and down like on the merry-go-round of the Wheel of Fortune, right? But more of a sustained level of joy. And you have the understanding to know that not everyone's going to be happy for you or happy about it. And that's okay. They don't have to be. That might be hard for you. One thing you can do, or one thing that I've realized I can do is just do spiritual cord cutting. So the people that I sense that aren't happy for me, I don't have to like hate them or kick them out of my life, but I can continue to cut cords with them energetically so that their envy stays with them, that it doesn't disrupt my energy or my flow, right? Really cool information. What else? What other things can we know about this circumstance? What other things can we know about this, Spirit? What can we anticipate around this Tower? Let's find that out. What is the Tower? What is the Tower exactly? What to look for in this Tower energy here? What should we know and look for and watch for around this Tower moment? Mercury, Scorpio, and 20 degrees of Taurus. I'm going to read these descriptions here. Mercury in this deck also kind of represents Hermes Trismegistus, interestingly enough, and I like that he shows up at the end. Youthful, of gracious mien, which means like affect, right? Gracious way of being. His shoulders girt with a cloak that scarcely conceals his form, his head surmounted by the winged Pegasus, carrying in his hand the caduceus, or magic wand, symbolizing equilibrium. With his free and easy, tremulous, and nimble demeanor, Mercury, the sly god, ambassador and messenger of Olympus, alert and quick, prepares himself to accomplish some piece of cunning work, which will help him to fulfill a delicate or perilous mission. This card represents a child or a young person. It brings youth. It is the card of shrewdness, of creative intelligence, of nerve force, and of journeys. Really exciting. So the Tower has to do with that level of energy, right? Like quick moving change, youthful, invigorating change. Mercury is also a fiery planet, right? Really exciting. Scorpio. What else about it, I asked, and it's Scorpio about this Tower. Oops, I'm going the wrong way here. Close to a pool of stagnant water, this essentially terrestrial creature creeps stealthily along, apparently harmless, and slowly overcoming or circumventing its obstacles while searching for the victim, however powerful and strong, who it will attack without fear, knowing that its diminutive size will enable it to conceal itself easily and without risk. So this is that discernment that you need to have. This is not a negative thing. This is, you know, Scorpio often gets really maligned, but you don't want to mess with the Scorpio, and it's the realm of water, so it's the realm of the heart. Scorpios are very discerning. You don't fuck around with Scorpios. If you do things that they feel are way out of line to either their value or even ethics in general, they speak their truth. I'm a Scorpio rising, so I've had to learn to be okay with that part of me, because not everybody is, especially if you're a woman, right? Sometimes people don't like women who don't mince words, but that's that kind of Queen of Swords energy. Knowing that its diminutive size will enable it to conceal itself easily and without risk, its faculties of dissimulation constituting its strongest weapon. Scorpio is more moist, cold, fixed, nocturnal, feminine, and of the watery element. It's an intellectual card. There's that Queen of Swords and Knight of Swords energy. Sorry, I keep losing my place. It's an intellectual card, which makes it possible to succeed through trickery or, at all events, through cunning, right? So if you're aware that people around you are not wanting for these happy changes for you, you need not worry, because you've got this kind of discernment within you. You might have Scorpio in your chart, but if any case, you've got the wisdom of the swords, the wisdom of the Queen of Swords to be discerning, the wisdom of the High Priestess. It's that kind of energy. You don't get over or trick a High Priestess, right? She can see right through you. So if you're going to try to come around a High Priestess, fuck around and find out if you've got nefarious intent, right? It gives ambition and a tendency to sarcasm. Yeah, that kind of cuttingness that people often experience. And it can represent a false friend. So that might be where the Tower is that it's going to become clear to you that someone's been false to you. But you are going to have the discernment to see it for what it is and to cut cords as needed and move on. Even though it's sad, you're in a very empowered position here to make these kinds of choices for your own happiness. This is a big affirmation. Please don't be intimidated by that level of discernment. People often are. People often dissuade you, if you're in this kind of scorpionic Queen of Swords energy, from being like that. But don't listen, because it's an empowered, you want that kind of energy within you as a high priestess. You don't want to be gotten over on, right? You want to have that kind of clear, penetrating insight, even if it hurts. It's still a strength. I hear you, though. Sometimes it can feel like a burden when you can read the room like that. The consultant knows what they want and possess the ability of obtaining it. If not through violence, then through shrewdness, exertion, and skill, which will be the factors in success. Yeah, really amazing. And then 20 degrees of Taurus, which, if I remember right, this is a really great card too. Super empowered. You're in a really empowered place. That's coming through like gangbusters. And it's going to have relevance to the dream to share. I'm going to share that too. So 20 degrees of Taurus around this tower. These are the 7 light and ethereal spirits taking flight towards the sky, dotted with pale gold spots. They are leaving this sorrowful earth for a higher sphere. This card indicates imagination and is a sure sign that the consultant considers his wishes as being realities. It signifies traveling. That's the second card that mentioned traveling. Mercury too, with the winged messenger, right? It also signifies traveling, the journey usually being fortunate. Wheel of Fortune. It's also an indication of moral and physical instability, pessimistic tendencies, and denotes worries and anxieties rather than real obstacles, which come with the tower. There's a very distinct before and after with the tower, and it can be anxiety-inducing knowing that a tower is coming, even if it's a good one for you, right? It means total change, no going back, right? Really exciting. So that also is that it comes with that warning about you're going to suddenly have so many options that you've got to really use your discernment and choice about your relationships, but you have nothing to fear. You're approaching the newness. You've generated your abundance, and you're fully in your power, psychically, intuitively. That just really coming through strong. So it reassures me that talking about those dreams that I had is okay here. It's not just me shooting off about my own experience, right? It has meaning for you. So the other dream that I had, I'll just go ahead and get into it now because it's very dark, is again the theme of friends and having all these friends come together. And I'm like, what? You guys all know each other? Like, how did this happen? Like, I feel in the dream slightly betrayed by that. Like, have you guys known each other long? Like, have you been talking? You know, I mean, it's not that everything's about me, but that's the feeling in the dream, right? Like, what's happening here? Like, there's a feeling of like you're late to the game, and all these people seem very in on something that you haven't been included in. And we're all in this place. And in the dream, it was going to see Jane's Addiction, which is a band that they just went through their own kind of process like this, right? You can Google it. They went through it on stage. So we're going to see Jane's Addiction, and I'm there with an ex, and also a guy that I went to high school with who loved Jane's Addiction, but who turned out to be kind of an abuser. But I used to have a crush on him in high school, but he was abusive. He was abusive to women. So I no longer, he was I felt a lot of attraction for him physically. And I'm a Scorpio rising, so I have a high sex drive, and was very felt a lot of lust towards this person when I was in high school, and until I started learning how he rolls with women, and that gradually eliminated it for me. But he was friends with my ex, a more recent ex, and we're all arriving in this city to go to Jane's Addiction together. And I remember kind of being weirded out that my ex was friends with him. I was like, because it wasn't just them though, it was also my friends group and disparate friends that were coming together that knew each other, but I wasn't let in on it. And so now it's like the same thing with these two men in my life from the past. And I'm like, you guys are friends? And I'm like, wow, that's interesting and kind of rich, because, maybe that means or reveals some things about my more recent ex, right? That maybe he's got some affinity for that type of personality. Then as I'm thinking, maybe I just want to bounce. Maybe I don't even want to be here anymore, because something about the vibe has really shifted for me, and I'm not really sure this is good for me to be in this setting anymore. And as I'm looking around the hotel we're staying in, this is a very classic theme in a dream that can reveal that there's toxicity around you. The hotel I was staying in was just filthy. And I was realizing in the dream, like, you need to get out of here. Something isn't right about this. And so I started, it's sinking in quicker and quicker in the dream. Like, the pace is picking up, and I'm like, yeah, you just need to go. You're being set up, or something is wrong here. And as I was deciding, never mind, I'm just going to get going and letting my ex in on, we were there like as friends or something. We weren't together anymore, but we were kind of still friends. And I was like, I'm getting out of here. This isn't right. But then he was throwing up a lot of obstacles. Like, oh, can you run and do this first? Can you run and do that? And then as I'm realizing, like, what's going on around here? There's all these dead animals. And this is where it's very dark, and I'm sorry, and mainly they're deer. Dead animals that he had somehow arranged to be strung up all along the power lines, all around. So as I'm leaving in my car and trying to get away, it's very ominous and threatening and horrible, right? Like, I don't want to think that this person would do that, kill animals in order to threaten me. But that's sort of what it was seeming like, right? I woke up to that. That was what was so disturbing. And I was shocked and horrified in my dream. And I felt kind of guilty in this weird way. Like, this was done to scare me. These animals died because of me for some reason. And I was very upset about it. Then fast forward to, so this is a dream. I'm not sure when I had this dream. It was like 2 weeks ago, maybe. Then I'm watching last night this show about Vikings, and I see that there was a Viking king, the first Norman king, Rollo, he talked about in Vikings, the show, right? He was a huge character. He did that kind of war tactic. He killed and skinned a bunch of domesticated farm animals and propped them all up around his fortified base that he had created for himself and his men in order to shock and scare his enemies. And I realized that that's what they were doing to me. They were treating me as an enemy. That's what that dream meant. I didn't understand at the time why. I was like, why would they do something like that? This is just horrible, right? Like, and I'm not saying, I'm not accusing anybody of having actually done that, right? This is just highly symbolic. But I do think that the dream was a warning, and it was that these people see you as an adversary, and they see, and they're willing to go to extreme lengths to, like, defeat you or to stop you, either from leaving, from moving past the current situation you're in. Because when I first realized, watching that documentary about Vikings, it was on this, I think it's called The Chronicles. It's like a channel on YouTube that I watched it on. And when I watched it at first, I was like, why do I keep, because I have prophetic dreams that then turn out to be something I'm going to see later on TV. And I was sort of asking my guides and everything, like, why would I be having prophecy about just something I'm going to see on TV? And as I was asking that question, I'm like, it doesn't seem very useful. It seems kind of funny, but not very useful. They were like, hello, think a little bit deeper. What is the symbolism of it? Why did Rollo use those dead animals and skinned animals? It was to scare his enemies. That's what those two men were doing to you. They were trying to scare you from leaving. They were trying to keep you caught up in a maze and scare you and make you feel threatened and too afraid to go beyond a certain point. So that's got meaning, okay? That's got meaning not just for me, but for this collective. The good news is that these tower-like things, because you've been willing to continue to grow, even though it's caused you sadness, it's taking you into this new experience, this incredibly empowered high priestess experience, okay? So don't think these are paranoid. Don't think that those impressions that you're picking up are paranoid. It doesn't mean you have to run or get wigged out or whatever. It just means use it for your better discernment. Use it as a strength, because it is a strength. It's a very powerful strength, okay? So now I'm just going to, I was going to do Lenormand and Kipper, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to pull some of my cards, and then that'll do it. What should we take away from these warning-like experiences about some of the folks around you? Again, I'm not trying to sow paranoia. If you don't know what I'm talking about and this isn't resonating, then it's not for you. It's not meant for you to you're going happily about your life and all of a sudden you hear a reading like this and have reason to fear. It's not that. These would be for people who are already feeling like this and needed confirmation. There are people around, based on those dreams, that haven't been fully honest with you at minimum, right? Or don't want you to move forward, right? And are willing to stoop to some pretty intense things, possibly like black magic or something, to get you not to succeed, because that's what it felt like in my dream. Like, who would kill animals, especially this day and age? Well, sometimes people would do something like that. Some sacrificial animals are done in not a nefarious way, right? Like, I don't necessarily do it, but some practitioners do. But this was like dark, non-respectful of the animal life, right? Like disrespectful to make me fear, okay? That's dark magic, right? You can trust this. So, okay, this message is going to be for who it's intended for. If you catch this reading, it's for you. You can trust that these messages are for you. You can trust that you're seeing clearly about the folks that you're starting to feel like, I don't really think they're actually for me. I think they might be, at minimum envious or jealous or sending me evil eye, even if it's unintentional. And at worst, working together with other people against you for some reason, right? Harness the power of poison to heal. So know that by letting go and by cutting cords with these old relationships of the past that are maybe working against your growth, by being willing to cut those cords, you're healing. You're moving into your happiness, where you're this wise high priestess woman or man, right? That's got all kinds of choice and the discernment to know which choices are going to be best for them. You are safe and cherished. You are loved because of the work you've been doing here. Please don't fear. This is to confirm for you that you're right, but you don't have reason to fear because you've been already doing this work. Even though some of it is coming through as a shock, maybe, you're already well on your way to where you need to be going, where your joy is, right? Inject chaos into this situation. Dragon energy is needed to end stagnation. And I did that in a meditative state at one point when I sensed major interference with someone in my life, or someone's in my life, who I felt like were blocking me or intentionally trying to confuse and mess with me to make me think I was crazy, for example. I was doing a lot of visualization of like breathing fire like a dragon as I cut cords. I was like, back the fuck off. Back off of me. I don't want any trouble, right? I don't want any trouble, but it just kept happening and happening and happening, like a snake. A snake doesn't want trouble, but a snake is going to bite at some point if it feels it has to. And that's the place I was in my own meditation. And I remember just feeling like, I'm done turning the other cheek. I'm done trying to just continue to move forward when I keep feeling like major interference from these people. And in this meditation, I was crying in the meditation, right? But I was breathing fucking fire, like burning it to the ground behind me so that they couldn't keep coming after me. Like, no. Harness the chaos to make whatever happens to free you out of this. In the dream space, it was just that I just kept going. Even though those animals were all strung up to try to scare me, I was like, no, you need to keep going. This is meant to scare you. You know it's an illusion. Just keep going, keep driving, keep getting out of here. It's sad but true. Sad but true. Metallica. You know it's sad but true. If you need to, listen to some Metallica, right? To pump you up. I think that's going to be everything, but I'm kind of looking like I want to just maybe pull one more card here. I'll pull it from this. This is a very positive deck. What's some final advice? Sad but true is coming through really strong all of a sudden. That can kind of pump you up for sure. Integrity. You have done your work with integrity. You can trust this. Harness the power of poison to heal. You're safe and cherished because you've worked from a place of integrity. You know you're not crazy, right? Enchantment. This is that high priestess. You can, and she's got a dragon as a companion right here. So you can, oh my God, February 18th. This is imminent, right? Like the tower is imminent. So there might be a tower, but it's one that you sense is coming already. And you have rowan tree. Rowan tree is a very protective plant. The rowan berry, ash, it's also called mountain ash. If you have access to a rowan berry tree near you, I would harvest some. Go maybe make an offering and cut a branch. And if it has any berries on it, all the better. And make yourself like a rowan cross, okay, to protect you. But you have this dragon fire with you also that's also a protective spirit. And you have the ability to see through what's happening. You have third eye vision here. You're a high priestess. That's a fax position. So as sad as it is, like in that meditative vision I had, I was crying as I embodied that dragon, but I was not holding back. I was breathing fire. Like I've not done anything retaliatory to anybody that I felt like was trying purposely to confuse me or get in my way. But at some point, it's like enough is enough, right? And so I turned around and I was crying, but I was just burning it down behind me. Like, you're not going to fuck with me. At least burning the trail. I'm not trying to cause them destruction. But I'm like, any effort of you to keep coming at me, I'm burning that to the fucking ground, even as I cry, right? So just know that you have that power and you are moving towards your joy with this 10 of Cups. You're going to have tons of choices and you're going to have the discernment to know which is best for you and who is truly for you and excited for you, right? So that's it. I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you like this reading.